Hi, welcome to the 6th Annual Women in Homebuilding Leadership Event. I'm Joanne Williams, founder and CEO of J. Williams Staffing. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we meet the others. I began my career in the homebuilding industry at age 29. I started with a sales and marketing company, and I worked there for 2 years. It was a really good platform for me to learn. There were so many different product types, different locations, density, product segmentation, that I got a really good introduction into the home building industry. And then through a friend of the owners and a friend of a consultant, I was recruited away to work for a home builder who was setting up a US operations. It was a mining and engineering company in the UK by the name of Costain PLC. So they set up a home building company here, and I was the 8th person they hired as their manager of sales and escrow. So I was the escrow and sales manager. I was there for 10 years, promoted to VP of Sales and Marketing after a short time, and I worked there under the leadership of Julie Newcomb-Hill. While I was at Dreyer & Young, I had a mentor in Claudia Roxburgh. For the first 2 years I was in the industry, she was my go-to. I could call her with questions on marketing or whatever, and she always took my call and always helped me. So as a really young woman in the industry, I found that was amazing. And then once I got to Costain, I had influencers like Phil Yaskin and Mike Hickson and Shirley Brown, and then I was mentored by Julie Newcomb-Hill. Julie is brilliant, strategic. She is constructive in her tough criticism, and I learned a lot from her. She taught me a lot about business writing, about marketing, a little bit about corporate politics, and she had a very direct and transparent communication style. So that was sort of my style, but I think I adopted it even further in my management, and I learned a lot from her. I mean, 10 years is a long time to be under one person's mentorship. So I'll always be grateful for that. Well, when Costain wrapped up their 10-year stay here and went back across the pond, I was at an SMC event in Newport Dunes. It was their summer event, and I was approached by a real estate staffing company. And one thing led to another, and they finally made me an offer to come to work for them. And at first I wasn't sure that this would be a good fit for me, but I knew that the purpose in a service business like this was about the customer experience, and I was all about that. So I thought maybe through that purpose I could take my skill sets and create the same passion I had when I worked at the home builders. So I gave it a go. And in the first couple of years in digging in and getting to know the business, I realized that I felt comfortable with it, but I didn't always have the same opinion as the owners, because I guess I just was a bold entrepreneur. I wanted to do it my way kind of person. So like most people do when they start their own companies, they think they have a better idea, build a better mousetrap. So in January of 2004, with a 13-year-old son, single mom, I quit. And I had a pretty good idea what I would do. I had a good assumption business plan on an Excel spreadsheet, but I didn't have any room for an office to get started. So I mortgaged my little cottage on Balboa Island, and I drywalled in half of my garage and painted it and put in a desk and got to work incorporating speaking with attorneys about the documents that I needed to create, logos, bank accounts, workers' comp, I mean, you name it, to get a business started, and kicked it off. So about 18 months in, we had been very successful, but I bumped into a challenge in which I was growing faster than the capital I had from my mortgage loan could fund my payroll. So in steps a new mentor, Gary Ryness. And Gary Ryness said to me, I really want you to open in Northern California and in Arizona. And I said, well, I don't have the money to do that right now. And he said, well, I can help you with that. And I said, well, I don't have any collateral because I've pretty much used that up. And he said, well, you have stock. And I said, it's not worth anything. And he said, it will be. So he took that stock and gave me the money to open in NorCal, Arizona, and Nevada. And I had only met him about 4 times, but he knew me by reputation. So I think when young people go through the industry and they're making connections, that you have to remember you do have a personal brand, you have a reputation, and within that, be mindful of that, because your behavior sort of dictates, what are you known for. So I was fortunate to have him know me for somebody of integrity. So fast forward, the early 2008, I had enough money to buy my stock all back from him, just in time for the home building market to crash. So those were tough times. I mean, really tough times. So it was a time, fortunately, that I had already investigated doing some property management staffing. So I took a 9-week course in CCRM, California Certified Residential Manager course, got my certificate, and rolled out the Division II of J. Williams Staffing. And fast forward to today, that's about 50% of our business, the multifamily staffing world. So it was a good move at the time. It just kind of pushed into it by circumstances. And I would say during those tough years, just trying to figure out what was next and how we were going to survive, 2008 to 2013 were rough years in the home building industry. I had what I would call probably a girl tribe of brainstormers, and people like Suzanne Madeline and Dana Kovac and Lisa Parrish and Dottie Sweeney, Paik, I think she goes by Dottie Sweeney now. Val Hartman, Gina Nixon. And so it was not unusual for us to get together and just power through some challenges in the conference room. And that was really, a valuable resource that I had. The other thing that was important was from 2005 until 2008, I had a business coach, Shauna Shu, and I know many of the industry knows her because she actually emceed the SoCal Awards one year. But I think she was really instrumental in kind of molding, furthering to mold my management style. And I think any C executive should have 1 to 3 years with a business coach. I highly recommend that investment in yourself, because you can't go anywhere to get the kind of feedback you need when you get to the C level. So it's really, really critical. So we survived, we thrived. We consequently opened in Texas. Then we franchised in Colorado, franchised in North and South Carolina, and in Georgia. We opened in Florida, and on the story goes. And I've built a really great business. Now, until last year was like our best year ever, and then COVID hits. So it's always you have to learn to ride with things, and I'm happy to say that we're right-sized right now and doing well. But my passion and my purpose has not changed from the beginning. I mean, my commitment was to an excellent and memorable experience for my candidates, for my customers, and for the employees who work for me. So I'm kind of living my dream right now in mentoring some of the young people that work for me. And I don't just mentor them to do well within my organization, but I really want to advise them in terms of how do they survive in the next level up? How do they survive in their next job with a different company? Just because I get their quirky things doesn't mean they're going to go somewhere else and have that be successful. So I need to position them for both, and so that they'll go on. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm just anxious to hear I'm just anxious to hear a little bit about our other panel members. So we'll come back to me and some questions and answers after we meet the other panelists. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. Kelly.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly Borgen. I am the CEO and Chief Buzz Creator of Get Community. I'm very excited to be on this panel and having the opportunity to share my story with you and these other fine ladies that you'll be hearing from next. I'm going to take a few minutes here to tell you a little bit about me, and I'm going to start with how I actually got started in the home building industry. It's actually a pretty random story, I would say. Definitely not intentional. I'm thinking probably a lot of you have the same kind of start as I do. I had graduated from college in 1997 from UC Santa Barbara. Go Gauchos. There's a lot of you in the industry, so I like that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, quite honestly. I had a degree I was an art major, and then I ended up also being a sociology major, and I had no idea where I was going with this. But when I got home, I had to move back home after college, and I needed to get a job. So what I did was I went to a temp agency, and I've actually told a lot of girls this who I've had breakfast with and given them some helpful hints. If you really don't know what you're gonna do, like go get a job at a temp agency and just try out lots of different things. So I worked at many companies for a few months, and it was really fun actually. And I got a lot of job offers. I almost got offered every job that I went and temped for, and none of them were the right fit for me. I was like, no, thank you. Filing all day is not for me. So as I kind of made my way through different jobs, I thought to myself how fun it would be to work in advertising. And I know lots of you have had this idea too, right? How exciting, go work for an ad agency. So that's what I told the temp agency. And while I was at the temp agency, I would use extra time when I wasn't working to go and learn programs, because they offered that like at their facility. So I would be like learning PowerPoint, learning Excel, and learning things that I didn't learn in college, because those things just started existing around then, I think. And I told him I want to work for an ad agency, so if a job opens, send me there. And that's exactly what happened. I got an offer to go and work for the Roxborough agency as their receptionist. And I remember that day because I wasn't dressed right and I didn't have nylons, and you had to wear nylons back then, so I had to go. I had a skirt on, like I was at the temp agency and they needed someone now. So I had a skirt, I went to like a Rite Aid, I got a pair of nylons, I put those on, and then I just went to my temp job, okay people? This is how it happened. And I got there, and there was, I don't know how many people worked for Roxborough at the time, quite a few, because this was in 1997, and someone kind of showed me the ropes and answering the phones, and of course back then the phone was ringing all the time, and that was my first like foot in to an advertising agency and in the home building industry. From there, I was actually at Roxborough for 13 years, and it was a really amazing experience with lots of ups and downs. Claudia Roxborough was amazing. I worked for her for 13 years. We were like really great friends, and I worked my way up pretty quickly actually. I went from receptionist to like I think a media manager, and then I got into account services. I knew I was gonna go that way versus creative department. And just over 13 years, worked my way up to being the executive vice president. So I really got to understand pretty much everything and how everything worked within an ad agency. But for me, and this is an important part about me, I always knew I wanted to own my own company. And I wasn't quiet about it. I had the conversation with Claudia many times, and many people who I knew in the industry knew this about me. That was my end game. And I'm just a driven person that way. I've always wanted my own business. And so in 2011, I left Roxborough and I started Get Community. And that was almost 10 years ago. We're about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. It was during, 2011, we were still in a recession. And so times were not good for the agency, but it's also when social media started becoming a thing. And for me, a couple years before I left Roxborough, I knew social media. I got on Facebook and I had tunnel vision. And I was like, this is gonna change everything. This way of marketing is a game changer, and I need to figure it out. So I started this page called I Heart Old Town Orange. I did some research online, and I was like, I gotta figure this out. And I started that because I live in Old Town Orange, and it just kind of went crazy and developed into this thing that it is today, which is like 30,000 people we have in our iHeart community. It's very much a part of what we do and what we learn as a business. But it also really helped me start my company, Get Community, which all we did was social media. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna really niche in. I didn't even mean to stay in the home building industry. It's just after 13 years, and I'm telling you, if you remain involved, which I was always on the Greater Sales and Marketing Council, and my network was huge. I mean, I got a call within practically minutes of me starting my own company, and I had my first really big client, which was, thank you, Janet Kimmerer, William Lyon Homes. And that was the beginning of what has evolved over 10 years, and we've got 17 employees now. And I started this company with my brother, who's sitting behind this camera. And we were like, we're gonna do this, you know. He used to build websites, but we went in on this idea of a social media company, and we've evolved to now we do websites again. But we stuck with social media and waited years. Over the 10 years, we've added a lot of services, including video. And like I said, grown to 17 people. We have many builder and developer clients, so we stayed in the niche. I'm so glad we did, because I, at the time, didn't know how good my network was until I started my own company. So it was a really amazing experience. And now you maybe know a little bit more about me than you did 6 or 7 minutes ago. So I'm gonna turn it over now to our next panelist, Deborah.
This panel, it's so exciting to be invited with these amazing women. I'm a graduate of the University of Oregon, 1987, so go Ducks. When I graduated, there were no jobs in architecture when I moved to Southern California. So I started cocktailing at Don the Beachcombers in Marina del Rey, which was awesome. I was making a lot of cash, I had free days. And then my parents said, we didn't put you to school to become a cocktail waitress. So fortunately, I met a guy whose ex-girlfriend's dad had an architecture and engineering firm, so I got a job. So that was my first start in the industry, and I got to do a couple really cool buildings. I got to do some barrack renovations and a transformer shelter at Point Mugu. And I thought, this is horrible. So I went looking for another job, and I got into residential. I got hired by Brian Dawson back in the day, and it was awesome, and he was so great to work for, and I learned so much. And then after about a year, I'm like, I want to make more money, and I want to do more. And there was the LA Times had an ad, and Kaufman & Broad was hiring. So I went up to interview for the job, and Mike Woodley was the person looking for a project coordinator, something to help him. And I interviewed with him, and I said, you know, you should hire me because I'm the best person you will ever hire for this job. And he said, well, thanks for your confidence, but I've got a lot of other people to interview this week, so I'll let you know. So then I called him the next day, and I said, have you made a decision yet? Because I'm still the best person you're ever going to hire for this job. And finally on Friday, he was so tired of me calling, he said, you know what, you've got the job. I said, excellent decision. So I started working in LA, and just for the record, Mike Woodley and I have worked together for over 30 years now. So I knew it back then, and he just didn't know it. He just had to come to learn it. And when I started working for Kaufman & Broad, it was mostly men, and I had my first project was in Palmdale, so when I went on a frame walk, I didn't really think about sort of going on job sites and the things that would happen, and I learned my first lesson for the frame walk was you should not wear a miniskirt on a frame walk. No matter, even if it's hot like Palmdale was, you should just not do it. And right after that experience, Kathy Noblaw was the head of human resources at Kaufman & Broad, took me shopping. And she said, Deborah, we are going to work on some of your fashion choices. And it was awesome, you know, and so I learned to do that. And so one of the lessons I learned early, the clothes do matter, you know, and then dealing with some of the guys in the field early on because I was young and they didn't want to take me seriously. And we had this superintendent called, we called him Screamin' John Zeman. And he called the office one day and he said, I need to talk to Pete. And I said, well, John, Pete's not here. Maybe I can help you. And he said, well, it involves structure, honey, so I need to talk to a man. And I said, well, why don't you try me with the question, John? And I answered it for him. And he's like, oh, well, thank you, you know. And then whenever he would call from then on, I'd be like, what's up, Buttercake? How can I help you? You know. I learned so much that it's like anything can be solved with a little bit of humor. Like you don't have to get defensive. You can just be that way. And in 2008, I left with Mike and we started Woodley Architectural Group, which is where I am today. And it's an amazing, amazing little company. We started with 3 of us and we worked all the time, and now we have offices in California and Colorado, and it's just been fantastic. I have gotten to try a lot of different experiences since I've been there. Mike is a great speaker, and he's like, Deborah, you got to get out and learn how to be a public speaker too. And so I got invited to, it was a Kevin Pfeiffer speaking engagement, and and I had all my notes and I was totally ready, and they turned off the lights, and so I didn't have any notes. And I was terrible. And when it was over, no one clapped. He was like, oh God, you know, and I left the room, and the greatest thing is like my career didn't fall apart. I didn't lose my job, you know, and I came back and I got to speak at PCBC a couple years later, and it went great. You know, and I just learned that it's like, no matter if you fail in this industry, you just don't quit, because like failing is not a bad thing, you know. And one of the things I also learned is that like I don't panic anymore in this industry. Even though like we've had a couple of like really bad market years, like we were able to get through them on every level, and our company has grown. And I keep a little Gumby and Pokey at my desk, because early in my career someone said, you need to be flexible, and this will remind you to be flexible for the rest of your career. And they still sit there today, you know. And I've learned a lot of lessons here. One of the lessons I was talking about earlier when we were talking about doing this panel is it's called the 3 asshole rule. And it means if you have 3 or more assholes in your life in a day, then it's probably you. You know, and sometimes that's happened to me before noon, and sometimes it's like, it's only been 2, and I'm like, oh, thank God it's not me. But it's like, I don't have any power over like some of the people that I deal with sometimes, but it's like, I always have power over my own attitude, you know, and we get thrown challenges all the time from the field, from the clients, from whatever, and it's like, it's our job to help, you know. It's like my job to come up with a solution, and if someone's mad, to like try and make them not as mad, you know. And I've learned to not take this as personal, you know, even though I sometimes do put on some like thick skin, and when there's a guy yelling at me from the field, I'm like, well, just among us girls, let's chat about this, you know, and it usually kind of disarms them pretty quickly. And I love, in the beginning I thought, a woman architect, that's a tough one, right? Because it's so construction dominated with men, and what I found is that you don't have to be anything other than who you are, because I stand out, you know. It's not like, oh, I'm not one of those other like old, you know, crusty guys. Sorry, Woodley, but you know, people remember me, and it's so nice. And there have been so many women that have, I don't even know if they know that they've mentored me, but they have, like Liesl Williams, who is phenomenal. She's just like a tough, amazing, fabulous woman who has never changed who she is, you know, and she's been so successful. And Julie Stark from CDC, who is just a beautiful friend and has just created an amazing company and has always been like helpful to me wherever I needed her. And a couple of the other men that have been great are Larry Webb, you know, because he was one of those people that showed me you can be nice and you can be successful, you know. And I even played soccer for him for a couple years, and he's a terrible soccer coach, but he cusses at you all the time. But he's a great, you know, mentor in the building industry. And lastly, I do have to give a shout out to Woodley, because we have worked together for so long. We have gone through personal life ups and downs and work ups and downs, and he inspires me all the time with his creativity, with his ability to like run a company and help me grow. I love the building industry because it's a lot of instant gratification. You design a house, and then a few months later you get to walk the house, you know, which is really, really a fun way to be. And I feel like so lucky to be a part of this industry, and that I got to be here today. So thank you for letting me talk about myself. And I would like to introduce you to Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle Spreckelmeyer. I am the Finance Director at the Southern California Division of Landsea Homes. I just want to start off by saying I'm so honored to be a part of this panel and to be included with a group of such talented and accomplished women. So my start in home building actually started even before home building. So I graduated from UCLA, and right away I was recruited into public accounting because my background is in accounting and finance. I currently oversee that department in my current role. And for anyone who has heard of Big Four or even deals with pesky auditors in their companies, that's who I was. I was the pesky auditor who wanted to know why you did what you did and why you did it wrong. Just kidding, but kind of. So for anyone who's heard of the companies of the Big Four, a typical day in busy season looked like 9 a.m. you start working and you don't stop until about 3 a.m. and then you wake up and just start doing it all again for 6 to 7 days of the week for months at a time. So I really enjoyed the company. I learned a ton, met amazing people, but I really put in my time there, and I learned a lot really quickly, and that's the biggest gift that I really received from the company, in addition to meeting all the amazing people. So after public accounting, I couldn't do that forever, so I really thought about, okay, what industry do I want to go into? And I wanted to stay in Orange County, and there's no big, tangible, entertainment companies or really companies that I could look to and be like, okay, I understand that company. I worked for distribution companies, I had worked for, pharmaceuticals, and those weren't as interesting to me as, something more tangible. And as she says, to say this, my boyfriend, my now husband, we used to go look at model homes, and we would go and just check them out and kind of just check out the design, appreciate the architecture, appreciate the sales team. I really enjoyed every aspect of it. So when I was interviewing for companies after being at a Big Four, I was so lucky and met somebody who actually let me know that they had an opening at William Lyon Homes. And once I heard about that, I went into that interview and I was pumped. Out of all the companies I worked for, that's really the one that I actually connected with. I felt like I had a passion for it, and I really, even though maybe I deal with numbers all day, I wanted to understand and be a part of a company that, I really could be proud of and really understand the product. So, I started working in corporate accounting at William Lyon Homes, loved the people, it was an amazing experience, and I learned a ton. And when I put in my years there, and when it came time, I would have loved to stay longer, but I think I just realized the career path there had kind of plateaued for me. There was no more for me to go there, even though I loved the people I worked with. So, a few months later, luckily I found out that there was an opening at Lancy Homes, which is where I am currently now. Shameless plug, we were one of the top 3 home builders in Orange County Register recently. But yeah, I currently am the finance director there, like I mentioned, and I oversee the accounting and finance department. I work with an amazing team. I love the team. I love my immediate team. I love the operations team. And I love all the departments, even when they go over budget. And pretty much all I do is crunch the numbers for them, but I'm so proud to be a part of a company in home building where I see and interact with home buyers who love their homes and who are so proud to really be able to, move into a product that we did every step of the way, and through the sale and closing of the home. And it's so rewarding, in my opinion, to be part of the home building industry and really be able to be a part of a company that really really stands behind our name. So with that said, that was really my journey into home building, and I don't plan on looking back. So with that, I'll introduce our next panelist, who's Patrice.
Hello, my name is Patrice Cushenberry, and I was told in my late teens by the mother of one of my closest friends that I should work in the real estate industry. And I remember looking at Jeanette like she was just crazy. I'm like, this woman, what is she talking about, real estate industry? And of course, remember, I told you that I was in my late teens. So of course, I knew absolutely everything at that moment in time. And then fast forward a few years, as a young bride, I answered an ad in the newspaper for a real estate assistant. And I remember driving up to the house. They open the gate for me. I drive up this long driveway and I see this gorgeous estate in Pasadena that was located above the 17th tee of the Annandale Golf Course. And I looked at this home, it was massive. And I thought, wow, real estate's gonna be great, and I'm just like, awesome, this is gonna be wonderful. Not really realizing that the woman that I was going to work for was married to one of the top OBGYN doctors in Pasadena. And that probably had something to do with, with that beautiful home. Although Kathy hired me and taught me what she taught me about real estate. I mean, she just took me under and her wing and just allowed for me to learn and absorb what she had to offer. And it was a great time working for her. And then I went over and worked for another real estate agent who, this woman, I mean, she just commanded respect. When Edie walked into a room, I knew that buyer was going to sign a deal or that seller was going to give her a listing. I mean, I knew, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. And I got a chance to really learn from her. And I think that just working for Edie gave me that sell and close by any means necessary attitude that I have. And then I decided to go off on my own, and I started my resale career at Fred Sands in San Marino, where I was just met by just a great group of people who just, I mean, we had so much fun, and we were competitive, and we worked hard, and it was just a great environment for me to grow personally and grow professionally on the resale side. And then I got to a point where I was like, there's got to be something better, something more. And so I answered yet another ad for a new home sales consultant. And I was like, what's that? And I read the whole thing, and I'm like, I can do this. Of course I can do this. And I get the job, and my first builder that I sold for was the Olson Company in Brea. And I remember walking in, and I'm just like, okay, let's do this. And then I was hit with floor plans, architectural, structural plans, options. What's all this stuff? And so I realized very, very quickly that all that I knew, I didn't really know anything, and I had a whole lot to learn. And then I moved over to Western Pacific Housing, and at that time, we were working for another company, and then Western Pacific Housing came in and kind of took over that developer and that development. When that happened, my partner, who was the lead, decided to quit, and so she's gone, and I'm left trying to sell. It was a pretty challenging community. It was a higher price point community in West Covina, and Western Pacific Housing had just come in, and I remember hearing it. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was John Stanek or Jason or one of the top guys. And I remember them saying, Patrice, who is she? Who is that? Who's Patrice? She can be able to sell these. And I thought to myself, you just wait, you just hold on, because I'm going to sell these. I'm going to rock and roll. And that community, I think, was where I was able to really make the beginning of my mark. And I enjoyed a wonderful time, many years working for Western Pacific Housing and D.R. Horton, selling a lot of their challenging communities. I got a chance to manage for them for a while, and then that led me over to working for some great builders. I mean, Scott Anastasia, Williams Homes, the new home company. And then after selling for many years and managing, I was able to work with Edco as their vice president of sales for a few years. And that was a wonderful experience for me. And then that's led me back to Williams Homes, where I'm the director of community outreach. And I was brought on to really help move forward their rebuild division, which was established as a result of the wildfires in California. They established the division to really offer our build assistance to those in need. And then also there's a custom home component to that. And then recently, my position has grown into not just promoting the design build portion of our company, but also really promoting all of Williams Homes Southern California division in an effort to just really provide those opportunities, establish relationships, and just really promote our homes and our company. And so that's Patrice Cushenberry.
Okay, ladies, welcome back. We're back for the Q&A section of Women in Home Building Leadership. And welcome Deborah from Hawaii. Aloha. Zoom you in. We can do anything via Zoom, right? Here we are. So to start things off, we talked a lot about mentoring and people who sort of lifted us up and took us under their wing. So let's go to you, Patrice, first. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe who your mentor was, or who brought you under their wing, and what that was like, how that story unfolded for you?
Sure. I started my career in the resale industry, and I was so fortunate to be embraced by this group of ladies that I worked with at Fred Sands, and they just took me under their wing. These were really strong, intelligent, classy women who were just dominating the resale world at the time, and I just wanted to soak up all of anything that they could give to me, and they were just really wonderful. And it's crazy because when I decided to move over to the new home side of the world, any new home community I would go to, I would take them with me and say, look what I'm doing now, and they would take credit for successes, and they still do to this day. You know, they're like, remember when you didn't know a thing? I'm like, yes, I remember, and I thank them for everything. So
Oh, sounds like you're a little sponge too, and that makes it more fun for them, so that's great. What about you, Deborah? Back in the early days, mentoring?
My first job really in the building industry was with Brian Dawson, but I really am crediting Mike Woodley for most of my mentorship in this industry. We've worked together for 30 years, so he has been in my life a long time. And in the beginning, I tagged along with him everywhere. Planning commissions, frame walks, every meeting. He allowed me to go everywhere and learn from him, which was great. And then when I got my first project, one of my first projects was in Palmdale, and it was all men, so there really wasn't a focus on fashion sort of thing for women. Like they wore jeans and stuff, and it was pretty hot in Palmdale. So I remember wearing a mini skirt and boots to the frame walk, and I definitely was more popular at the frame walk for the wrong reasons than what I thought I should be. And so after that, we talked about that. And Kathy Nobla, who was the head of human resources at Coffin and Broad, took me shopping and said, Deborah, fashion does make a difference in your career. So she was like very important in that like early part of my career on just like how to present myself and have myself taken a little more seriously than what I did. And I have other people in my life that have had huge impacts, like Larry Webb. He's one of those great guys. He was my soccer coach when I was younger, but he also showed me that you can be nice and be successful. Lisa Williams showed me that you can be yourself and never have to change and become any sort of like, restricted sort of sideline computer type woman, and you can be amazingly successful. And Julie Stark has always been in my life as well, and just been available for me to answer any questions, and has just been inspirational in running a successful company. So I feel like very lucky because I've had all these people in my life for most of my career.
That's great. Well, one thing that makes me wonder, just as a follow-up question, would you say to the young women out there, and maybe the young men too, I mean, you had the advantage of being able to tag along. I did that as well, but it was because those individuals in the company allowed that. So do you think that that's something, how does one make that happen if they're a younger person in a company? Did you have to ask permission, or were you just invited, or how might they have that experience?
So I don't know how much I really ask permission in my life. Sometimes I just insert myself. And I believe that if I'm, as a person and a professional, I'm going to be my best advocate. So if I want to succeed, I'm going to find the people that I want to like do what they do and be like them and learn from them. And I'm like, I just would like to hang out with you, and like most of the time they've been okay, and I don't really think I ever had anyone ever turn me down. But I also believe you can be really persistent and that you can be hard to say no to. So I think that if you want to learn something from someone, like whether it's at your job or in like a marketing council, or like there's other activities that these people do, like how do I learn? I learned a lot from Larry just by playing on a soccer team, which had nothing to do with the building industry, but I learned a lot from him just on how to handle situations. So there's all different arenas of their life that you can learn from different people, if that helps answer the question.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you, Deborah. What about you, Kelly? Who was your mentors?
Right?
People who helped you?
I had a lot of mentors. I will say in the building industry, one of my first mentors was Jasvina, and I'm sure she knows this, right? Because when I started at Roxborough, Jasvina Gill also worked there. And she's definitely like helped me survive my first year at Roxborough. But after that, Claudia, absolutely. Claudia Roxborough, so many of you out there have worked for her and you definitely know her, but I worked with her for 13 years and she just taught me like to that point, everything that I know. We were great friends and I just soaked so much up from her. So she was an amazing mentor. But I'm one of those people too that's like seeking out mentors. Mm-hmm. So people who really, like you guys were talking about already, that helped along the way was like Shirley Brown and Mike Peralta and Lisa Parrish. Like I still call Lisa Parrish. And I'm like, right. What does this mean? How do you do this? Like all the time. She's like my go-to person. So having someone like that is amazing. But people, I'm on the advertising side, so people who worked in media, would take us out to lunch and they would teach us so much about this industry and who you need to know and what you need to know about them. And this is how you navigate through this. And so when you can find people like that, I think that's amazing. And always for me, I'm super competitive. So people in other agencies, who I loved. And I think the same for marketing people on the home building side, to make friends with each other from different companies. That's something that I sought to do. So, I had Michelle over at Hayes Martin and Randy over at Kovac and different friends in different agencies. And I think that really helped to further my career in the industry. So lots of mentors for me.
Definitely speaks to the collaborative effort that we get through the Sales and Marketing Council or other people that we interact with. So absolutely. What about you, Michelle? Who was your mentor, or maybe had more than one mentor, somebody that really kind of lifted you up?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate. I feel like I've met a lot of talented people along the way and worked with amazing people, including our current division president, Tom Bain, who I've learned a ton from so far. But on a personal note, I would say my mentor has always been my mom. She came to America, my parents came to America in 1989 with less than $300 and a dream to make a better life for their family. And fortunately, she's probably the biggest hustler I know. So it's really nice to look up to her. I feel like she's constantly, motivating me to continue to grow my career and really strive to do more. So I'd say she's my mentor.
What about you, also Michelle? Did you have any tag-along experiences in sort of your career? I know you worked for an accounting.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, every manager I've had, including Tom Bain, like I mentioned, they've really taken me along on meetings that I probably didn't need to be involved in at my level. However, they wanted me to really see what they were doing and be involved in the decisions that they were making, which I find very fortunate. It's really expanded my scope of what I do, and I think it was their intent, and I thank this so much, to really have me do more in my role than just what I currently do. And I think that I've always been so fortunate to have managers who saw the potential in me and wanted me to do more than just whatever I was doing at that time. And I think that because in the very beginning, I would make it clear to everyone I worked for that I really want to grow. My goal is really to constantly learn every day. And I think for them to take me into meetings, with mortgage companies or, outside our immediate team, has really helped me grow and better understand other aspects of the home building industry that I probably wouldn't have touched on otherwise.
So sometimes just by being exposed to things, even in your situation, Deborah, where you weren't always actively involved, but the exposure to it gives you that opportunity to learn. So that's important. Let's tell me, each of you, a quick little story about maybe one of the biggest challenges you had. I know it's a big challenge, so it's probably not that short of a story, but if you can make it concise. How about you, Michelle? Let's stick with you for a second here. Big challenge.
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge for me has been me. And by that, I mean, I think that, early on, I was very aware that I have certain qualities by nature that some people may perceive as weaknesses. For example, I'm more of an introvert by nature, and also in general, I'm very over accommodating. And I didn't want everyone to be in a meeting, keeping to myself and having these ideas and not being able to speak up, and for someone to think that meant that I didn't have ideas on my own, or I couldn't stand up for myself, or just some sort of perception of the fact that I was maybe on the quieter side that wasn't meant to be a weakness. And in general, I'm also a little over accommodating, so I try to go above and beyond, maybe in times where I don't need to, or it's just easier for other people to rely on me when they could do it themselves. But being self-aware of those things has really helped me be able to kind of, make sure that nobody ever treats those qualities as weaknesses, or ever takes, not that anyone would, but takes advantage of the situations in which I don't speak up for myself. And I think that, in a way, it's really just been unique qualities about me that have really just kind of helped me be a better person, better employee, better manager, because I recognize those things about myself, and I try to use those things to my advantage rather than against.
So yeah, in summary, I would say biggest challenge has really been the qualities about myself. I know that may be perceived as weaknesses, but to me, as long as I'm aware of them and I can address them, then I would hope that nobody can ever see that as a Michelle is just a not as good at her job, but rather she's just unique in that she's just her time and she's really thoughtful in her.
Understood. Patrice, how about you? Tell us about a big challenge that you faced in your career.
It's a great question, and I've thought about this, and I'm asking myself, why is this so difficult for me to answer? Like, there have been challenges, there have been major challenges, and after thinking about the question, I've determined that I'm wired a little different in that I tend to welcome these challenges. I start my day by saying, okay, bring it. Come on. What are we going to do? Let's meet this stuff head on. I'd rather meet something head on and deal with it and bust through, as opposed to something sneaking up behind me and knocking me over. So for me, I get a kick out of overcoming objections and crashing through roadblocks to develop solutions, and using those solutions as lessons to make me an actual better person, professionally and personally. So,
what about over to you in Hawaii, Deborah? Besides maybe the surf not being up today or whatever, what's a big challenge you can share with us?
It's like 5 to 6 feet out front. I think the surf is plenty challenging, but so I've had a couple of challenges. I feel like I'm the opposite of Michelle, whereas I can come off very strong and very loud and very everything, and it has been one of my challenges to sort of like hold back and sort of absorb more sometimes, and I think that that's a very important thing. And but one of the things that happened to Woodley and I, and it's a result of kind of pushing through things and trusting things and not crossing T's and dotting I's. One of those, and we had a contractor that worked for us, a subcontractor, and he ended up suing at both of us for like $88 million, which is a giant number when this comes across your desk and you think, I'll never make $88 million, and we're going to hide what little I have. And for whatever reason, I was going to hide it in Wyoming. And it was just a huge panic. And it lasted like 2.5 years of meeting with the attorneys. And anyway, it all went away. Like, the guy was a complete shyster. But when you get something like that, it kind of freaks you out. And what I learned was 2 things. One, you can get through anything, like anything bad, and just seems like this is world ending. My career is over and our business is over. And it's like, it wasn't, and it's like over time, everything passes. And then the other thing was, I learned from that point on to carefully read contracts, like always read contracts. Never trust an attorney ever, and always read the contracts. Even if you read it and you redline it again and they send it back to you, read it again, because it's just so important in this business. So those are my 2 things that I have learned, or challenges.
Thank you. What about you, Kelly?
So I just want to say that I'm super grateful to my business partner and brother, because he reads all of our contracts and he does that for us. And thank goodness, because you're right, somebody needs to read the fine print. But when it comes to one of my biggest challenges, definitely when it comes to like work, was the transition to social media. I mean, I've already talked about the fact that I started a social media company, and that's what we do now. It's all digital. But when that transition happened, it was huge for a couple of reasons. First, because it was a whole new way of doing things and nobody even knew about it. But I know for me, like when I got on Facebook, it was just tunnel vision. I'm like, this is changing everything in marketing. And I need to figure it out. So getting our clients on board with that was like so challenging. I was still at Roxborough. And it was also during a recession. I mean, these are the years from like 2007 to 2010. And getting a builder to try something new and invest in something new when they're just slashing everything out of every budget to survive, which I get, it's so hard, was probably the biggest business challenge. But I knew for me, I had to do it. Like I do kind of enjoy challenges like Patrice, and I like figuring that kind of stuff out. And it does get me sort of like excited, and it gets me like going, and I love figuring out something new and really educating myself and learning, you know, how to do it and how to make it work. And I still feel like today that we're still figuring out how to make things work, because in digital now it's like once social came, it's just everything keeps changing so fast, and you have to be willing to try it, to be like, okay, we have to figure this out. We have to do it with our clients because this is the next big thing, and we want to be on that wave. And it's changed marketing entirely. So that was like a huge challenge. But out of it came Get Community in our company and so many wonderful things. So yeah.
So let me just keep that going, because with that, what piece of advice would you have for young people in the industry who are trying to make their way into this as a career, or they're looking, I mean, they could be working for any kind of company really, but what kind of advice would you give them?
That's a good question. I would give so much advice. I love giving advice. But I would say the first big thing that I tell people all the time, especially young women, you know, we young women, I love having coffee and talking out people's careers and where they want to go. But is that you have to be really, really amazing at whatever it is that you're doing. And by that I mean you don't have to be the best, because you have a lot to learn, but we're talking about, you know, keeping the kitchen clean if you're the receptionist like I was. And honestly, like, these are the things Jasvina helped me like see. So I knew I needed to do these things. The T's needed to be lined up and the mail pushed in. And these were parts of my job that like anybody could do that. And if you have an attitude about that kind of stuff, I think it's the fastest way out the door and not to move up. So that's huge. Really, just if you got the job as a receptionist, you got your foot in the door, be an amazing receptionist. Be courteous and super nice on the phone, and make sure you're taking care of everyone in the office, you know, down to, would you like a cup of coffee? Because sometimes that's your job. And that to me is how I sort of like moved up through the levels and the ranks pretty fast, and I just absorbed and learned. But I'll just leave it at that, you know? Because I could just keep going, but I won't.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I just have to add that at one time, because the downturn hit when I was working for a home builder in the early 90s, and if I hadn't known a lot of different positions, I don't think I would have survived it, because we ramped up to 150 employees and backed down again, and you know, you were the linchpin, I guess, as Seth Godin would call it, a linchpin, because you knew how there were so many things they depended on you for. Okay, what about you, Michelle? What advice would you give the next generation?
Yeah, so I think, like my story, in that, you know, I recognize some qualities about myself that some people may perceive as weaknesses. I would say the biggest thing I learned is stay true to yourself. I think there have been times when I've been in meetings with other people who were maybe louder and, you know, just a little bit more, they had to have the last word. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe I should be like that. And over time in my career, I've just realized I just need to stay true to who I am. And if I'm an introvert, I think that's a quality that actually makes me a better manager. I like to think that I have that one-on-one rapport with my team that makes hopefully feel appreciated and you know, make it less like a job coming to work and more of a, hey, we're all in this together and we're doing something as a team. And then, you know, me being over accommodating, another quality that some people might be perceive as a weakness, I think also being reliable. I think that I'm hopefully known as being reliable, and anytime I say I'll do something, I'll do it no matter what it takes. And those are all things I think have helped me really progress in my career, because I am very constant. I deliver on what I say I'm going to deliver, and I like to believe that those are the reasons that people have luckily promoted me, and I've been fortunate enough to just progress in my career as a result of just being who I am and working really hard, because that is kind of who I am.
What about you, Deborah? Advice for the next generation?
So 2 things I think that have been super important to me in my career is, one is work ethic. And I think it's really hard to teach work ethic, but it's something you can like give yourself. And it's one of those where work like someone's watching you when no one's watching you, you know, because it's like that kind of work ethic. It's like you can always go home at the end of the day and put your head on the pillow and know that you put in a good day, whether someone was watching you or not. And that's always been like how I've always operated. But the other thing I think that is so important is to pick up the phone, because I work with so many people that are like, have you resolved this issue yet? And they're like, well, gosh, I texted them or I emailed them and I haven't heard back yet. I'm like, watch this. And I pick up this miracle phone feature that we have, and it's like we make the call and we're like, hey, let's resolve this. And it's there. And it always fixes. And the younger people sometimes like, that's amazing. I'm like, I know, but it's like, it's such a great tool. And relationships are so important in this business. And it's just hard to make a friend with an emoji, even if you put a smiley on the end of your email. But it's like, it's so easy to have a rapport and have a relationship with someone when you're actually talking to them. So I would just say, pick up the phone.
Before we leave you, I know you worked in a predominantly male industry in architecture when you first got into it and first started with Woodley. Did you have any challenges as sort of a smart young female coming into a very male-dominated industry?
I had I would say most of the men in the field did not take me seriously. Even the division president of Palmdale, Dwayne Betty, back in the day, after my first frame walk, he sent me flowers. And he said, you were wearing my favorite colors, blonde and tan, because I was blonde back then, and I was tan. It's like, okay. So as I kind of went on, it's like, and I picked up the phone one day in the office, and we had this guy, he was a superintendent. His name was Screamin' John Zeman. And he called and he said, Deborah, I need to talk to Pete. And I said, well, John, Pete's not here. Maybe I can help you. And he said, well, no, this involves structure, honey. And I said, well, buttercakes, why don't you try me? And I was able to answer his question, and it was amazing. Like, John Zeman was converted. Like, there's a woman that knows something about structure in the world. And so it's really been fun for me, as opposed to trying to get mad about it. It's just like, have a little fun with it. Because in the end of the day, like, no one's really like a bad person that we work with. It's like they've got a deadline, they need to do what they do. And if I can help them do that and we can have fun during it, it's like, it all seems to work out okay. And now I can go out on a job site, and I haven't run into that problem in a long time, because people actually remember who I am and they're like, oh, that's right, she does know something. So I have that.
What about you, Patrice? Advice first. Advice for young people, next generation?
Sure, yes. We froze a little bit there, so sorry about that. The advice that I have for the next generation, or even myself, if I could go back, 25 years, I would say that it is okay to be fearless, that it's okay to not know something. It's okay to ask questions. And if you don't get the answers that you need, it's okay to ask those questions again. You can ask them in any way that you want, in order to get an answer that you're satisfied with. I would say that when someone tells you no, it's okay to ask why not, and move forward. And then also the other thing is basically what I just said right now is how I operate. And it would have been nice to know back then that that's okay, that it's okay, and that what you're doing is truly pretty much expected as part of your job in the new home sales world. So I say be fearless and power through, and also know that hard work pays off, that there are true benefits to hard work, but don't forget to enjoy the journey and the process, and take time to sit back and smell the roses. And I have to say that to myself. I've got to look in the mirror and tell myself, please stop and smell the roses. Because it's an amazing process, and it can be just a wonderful journey. So
thank you. I actually heard all of you say that in one regard or another. Be really inquisitive, be curious, ask questions, because that's how you're going to learn. If you're sitting back and you're only absorbing part of it and not filling in the blanks for yourself. So I think that's a really good thing. Is there anything, any other takeaway that you'd like to leave before we move on? Just something we haven't mentioned before, you haven't shared before? Just give me a little raise of the hand. Anybody? Kelly.
I'll raise my hand. I guess I would share this, and I love that if someone says no, that's okay to ask why not. I love that. But I would say one of the things I probably learned later than I wished I learned it, I wish I would have learned it earlier for myself, is that it's okay, I guess, to be afraid. And because there's a lot of fear in what we're doing, especially if you're a leader, because as a leader, you don't know everything. You just act like you do. So, and I think that's what makes a leader, is someone who's willing to go out and be the first one to try something. So, and there's a lot of fear in that. Like, I'm afraid all the time to try new things, and what it might mean. You know, I'm afraid to lose our biggest client. Like, I'm afraid of what that means. But what I learned is, for me, if I can go in and ask, what is the worst that can happen? And really, like, be in the power of that. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I lose all my clients and I have 17 people who rely on me, you know? That would keep me up at night, except the worst that could happen if I lost my job and lost everything right is I would be out on the street, except I wouldn't be, because I already asked my parents if I could live with them. And I know that they said yes. So I know there's people who would take me in, and I have done this for friends who have lost their jobs in this industry, who don't have jobs right now. And I've done this exercise with them and said, what is the worst thing that's going to happen to you if you don't get another job, you know? And it really comes down to feeding and sheltering yourself and your family. And, you know, I have told them, if your parents won't take you in and you have nowhere to go, you can come to my house. So if that problem is solved, then we're okay. So I think those kinds of things, for me, if I can go internal and say what's the worst that can happen, and if I can figure out an answer that is at least acceptable, it really helps me to just forge forward and push through the challenges or the things that I'm afraid of.
A little like Patrice's Be Fearless, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else have something they want to share that they haven't shared before? What about, how do you know if you're having a good day or a bad day? I talked to Deborah earlier and I thought she had a funny answer for that. I just wanted her to share that.
So I have a couple. I'm all about like little sayings because they just stick in my head. And so one of them, it's like, if I get on the phone with someone who's just really angry and you know, it's like I have the choice of getting angry back at them or trying to help them solve their problem. And so one of my favorite sayings is, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty and the pig enjoys it. So I try and remember that, to sort of like, I don't need to get down in the mud with this person. It's like, I can sort of stay out of the ring, and we usually can get through the problem, because two people wrestling over it is never a win. And then the other rule that like many people in my life know that I go by is the 3 asshole rule. And the 3 asshole rule goes as follows. If you have 3 or more assholes in your life in a day, then it's probably you. You know, and it has happened to me. It has happened to me before noon sometimes. And it's like, okay, pull it back. And then I've had days when I've only had 2. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's not me today. You know, and when I do that, it's like I learn, like, I don't have control over all the stuff that happens out there. I don't have control over the people, the places, the things, the situations. But I always have control over my own attitude. So it's like, if I can take a breath, take a pause, whatever I need to do, and not sort of dig in, not fight back, not do all that, and not violate the 3 asshole rule, then my day is probably going to be better for just myself and really everyone else around me at the office. So those are my 2.
Well, thank you, ladies. And just before we conclude, I'd just like to say thank you to Get Community and the video team and everyone here that helped put on the event today, made it spectacular. And we are now going to do 3rd quarter sales awards. And so I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Otten.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you, ladies. We really appreciate you being a part of the Women in Home Building Industry panel. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Otten. I'm with HRI Design, and I am privileged to announce the 3rd quarter sales awards. Let's get right to it. For our top producers this year, we have representatives from 9 different companies. Brandywine, Crestwood Communities, and Ultimate New Home Sales. Lancy Homes, the New Home Company, and Toll Brothers. Congratulations to all of this quarter's top producers. And now on to our Achievement Awards. These are the awards that are judged in each and every category. Today, we start off with Sales Rookie. And the winner is Robert Adams from Brandywine Homes. New to home building, still in his first year, this rookie has taken it upon himself to learn more about digital marketing, video editing, and content creation. In fact, at the end of Q2, he personally enrolled in Tom Ferry's Marketing Edge program to gain even more new ideas on how his community can outsell the others. With 0 cancellations in a time of COVID, he was able to sell their final 4 homes. Congratulations, Robert. Next up, Inside Sales Team. And the winner is Lauren Mills and Lisa Daly, Lancy Homes. With increased volume of inbound phone calls, web leads, and appointments, they meet all the demand for 4 of their divisions. Available 7 days a week, they connect with each and every prospect to understand what the current living situation is, what they are looking for in their new home, and details on their lifestyle to ensure they are connecting them with the proper Lancy community. They utilize all their resources to connect with them and also hook them up with the division's preferred lenders to start home buying process for truly seamless transition from online sales to on-site appointments. Next up, sales professional selling product under $500,000. Finalists represent the New Home Company, Ultimate New Home Sales and Marketing, and Crestwood Communities. And the winner goes to Jonna Wright with Ultimate New Home Sales and Marketing for Luz del Sol. She overcame several unforeseen obstacles. Having to go back to over 20 home buyers with mandatory solar panels after they closed was quite an adventure. She also had to go back after 6 to 9 months worth of construction delays and still was able to meet customer service needs. Congratulations. Our next category is sales professionals selling attached product, $500,000 to $999,000. Our finalists represent Strategic Sales and Marketing and the New Home Company. And the winner is Tim McLaughlin from the New Home Company, representing Agave. This is an active adult condominium project with high HOA dues, $750 a month. The high HOA dues have been a big challenge in this active adult demographic. This sales professional, though, found a way to overcome the objections by breaking down and showing buyers what each line item of the HOA budget includes. That way, the dues were compared with what they paid in their current home. Congratulations. Next up, sales professional selling detached product, $500,000 to $999,000. Finalists represent Party Homes and Ultimate New Home Sales and Marketing. And the winner is Albert Ponce, Ultimate New Home Sales and Marketing, representing Vista Cielo. This gated community is in the low to high 600s. It's hidden above a very rural area, peppered with much older income and priced homes. This neighborhood lacks viable commercial, retail, has very low services. It's difficult to find, and very strict signage makes it hard to drive traffic. It's also very far away from the freeway. This builder had high expectations with price and low marketing budgets. However, Albert was creative, and within just a few short weeks of joining this community, he was able to turn it completely around. Congratulations. Sales professional selling product over $1 million. The winner goes to Julie Edwards, Strategic Sales and Marketing. With a few niche challenges, the community not being gated, and other things happening in the area like protests, the riots, being on lockdown longer than any other city in California, Julie was the ultimate professional and was able to still outsell the competition in a struggling LA market over $1 million price point. Next up, sales team selling product under $500,000. And the winner goes to Pardee, Westlake, Scott, and Justin. While their floor plans were undoubtedly charming, they did encounter some unique obstacles. They adapted to selling in a location with no new home activity. It was across the street from a trailer park, right next to a high school, very low elementary and middle school scores, 0 lot lines, and very small backyards. Yet these professionals overcame by having the mindset of giving personal tours to each and every interested prospect. Didn't matter if their appointment when it was, they were giving them a personal tour. Congratulations, that resulted in sales. Now, sales team selling attached product, $500,000 to $999,000. The finalists represent Lancy Homes and Strategic Sales and Marketing. And the winner goes to Strategic Sales and Marketing for MDL by Intercorp, Rebecca, Shelley, and Colby. This team had a unique set of challenges keeping potential buyers engaged and interested despite selling out far ahead of construction timelines. Working with their preferred lender to find a solution, they utilized a 12-month-long term lock rate program that was able to upsell potential buyers. This team spun these sales as the freedom to customize your new home with all buyer-selected options while still being able to take advantage of today's low interest rates. Congratulations. Sales team selling detached product, $500,000 to $999,000. Finalists represent Richmond American and Lancy Homes. The winner is Lancy Homes, Shade Tree, Lori, Yvette, Donna, and Parker. They closed 31 homes for a total of over 19 million. These numbers are huge in Ontario, where it's a market with over 20 competitors at this price point. While the demand is extremely high, these customer service had to be number one for this team. Somehow, they managed to do one-on-one appointments, call back clients that made calls during those times, and still able to prospect. They registered over 1,200 appointments in Q3 alone. That's 25 appointments each in a 40-hour week. Congratulations. And now for sales teams selling attached product over $1 million. The winners goes to Toll Brothers for Harbor View, Elizabeth, Karen, and Scott. Located just 1 mile from the harbor with beautiful trails throughout the community, they still had some challenges. Their plans were 3 stories high, detached condos with an average lot size of 3,000. Some of the home sites had no views, which is what people wanted. These teams' follow-up skills kept buyers in the pipeline until each and every home site was released. From purchase to close, they were readily available for their buyers and made them feel like a priority. Congratulations. Sales team selling detached product over $1 million. Finalists represent the New Home Company and Toll Brothers. And the winner is Toll Brothers from Ocean Hills, Maddie, Juan, and Mike. This team worked hard to stay very positive while facing challenges in these uncertainties. They found solutions for many of their self-employed buyers that had previously been approved and then denied loans due to the pandemic. They switched up their strategy with their backlog clients, and instead of relying on emails and calls, they pivoted and did everything by video. That way, their existing buyers could truly connect and see their smiling faces, adding a great personal touch. They also routinely made video calls for their home buyers' home sites to show the current stage of construction and all the progress they've made. And finally, we have Shining Star. This award goes out to a team that just had to be recognized, so much so that the superintendent is the one who took the time out to fill out the sales award application process. We are so appreciative and love the collaboration between construction and sales. And the winner goes out to Darla, Marie, and Lance at Richmond American out at Primrose. They grand opened to the public in April of 2019, sold out 79 homes by September 1st. And as I mentioned, this team worked closely together between sales and construction. They continue to hit the mark with 98% Avid survey scores, which is top in the company. Congratulations. Just want to say thank you to all of our Sales Awards finalists, winners, top producers. GSMC is proud of you. We appreciate everyone who takes the time to enter and encourage you to do so, as it's simple on the new GSMC website. And as GSMC closes out the year, we want to remind everybody that you too can be a part of these awards. You too can be a part of everything that GSMC does by being a part of our board of directors. Applications are now available. Just contact BIASC. We'd love to have you join us on our board of directors next year. And our final event of the year is the big one. We close it out with SoCal Honors on November 19th. We will recognize many more winners and all the achievements and hard work of all of our friends out there in the industry. We appreciate you and can't wait to celebrate more on November 19th at SoCal Honors. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you again to our panelists. We are so proud to have our 6th annual Women in Home Building Leadership Panel and our 3rd quarter Sales Awards come to an end. Thank you.